Slick and Luke are two people that I've met, along my kind of journey and stuff. And like you guys, a fan and respect of their body of work. And I think really what I kind of want to focus on as I try to tell their story and let them kind of speak on their work. And so as you look at these pieces that are on this little clip back here, that hopefully as we talk about stuff, maybe we get lucky and there's one or two that we're talking about that we get to stop and kind of, story tell a little bit. When you look at these videos and pieces, ask yourself, how many hours did that take? Ask yourself, how much pivoting had to happen or start over or try again? And think about, right, like as artists and creators, how many start and then just stop? And so between these two guys, there's 40 years on one side of work and like almost 30 on the other side. So how many hours is that as you look at these pieces? So, a quick little round of applause for these two guys that don't really need an intro, but. So, Luke, we'll start with you, man. When you were a kid, right, you were mentioning to me earlier, like 4 years old, you're looking at your mom creating art and she's drawing for you and trains, planes, automobiles, and you start drawing.
Yeah, I was just, my mom says that I would bring her a piece of paper and say, can you draw me an excavator? Can you draw me a train? And I would just watch her draw trains, and I would just watch her draw stuff, just soaking up game from a young age. And I would take my piece of paper and I would lay it out, and I would just try and follow the lines and do it that way. And those are some of the earliest memories that I have of drawing and being fascinated with art and wanting to draw things that I felt were interesting to me.
Right. And Slick, you start, and for you it's like pop locking and breaking and hip hop. And so can you talk to me about what it was like, growing up, obviously, like
in a box?
Literally. Yeah, of like what that's like, right? Because you're growing up in an area where it's not like, that's not part of the norm, right? You're like standing out of the box from the beginning.
Yeah, I was born and raised in Honolulu. At an early age, I went the route of, I was always creative as a kid, but my mom would always kind of have me around art. Even though she wasn't doing it at the time, she was in sales or jewelry business or whatever. But she loved painting. She says my grandfather, who I never met, was a illustrator in mainland China. So all I had to remember my grandfather by was maybe these two little illustrations that they saved, And it's like, oh, that's from your grandfather, and I couldn't understand it. And then her brother, my uncle, was a draftsperson for LUKEK2S.
Okay.
So yeah, he was really talented. My mother's brother, my uncle. And I just gravitated to the arts early on. And then when b-boying came around, or popping and locking, I was really limited in like what I could do as far as power moves and things like that, and I could excel at art because I already liked creating and drawing and things like that. So graffiti came natural. That's how I could represent for my crew, and put us on the map was.
No, and the run's been crazy, right? Like this then transitions into
like 84 maybe, yeah. So
then transitions into becoming album covers at another point for hip hop, designing for some of the brands, being in the rooms, coming up with the names for brands that are now like normal. They're household names in our industry, right? It's been amazing to watch what you've built. Luke, you go from your first, you go in kindergarten, you're drawing snakes, animals,
Yes.
falcon vibes.
I like the details. I
On
like
my
the
live
details
stream-
of the scales on the
Yeah.
snakes, the feathers on the birds, the patterns on the leopards. Yeah. for sure.
Your first graph piece was a black. Your first graph name was Shaky.
Yes. Yes.
What grade were you in when you did this?
6th grade.
6th grade. 8th
Yeah.
grade, you're drawing dragons that I showed on my live stream earlier.
Yeah, I was drawing the dragon from Shrek. Yes.
Ninth grade, you're doing skateboarding,
Yes.
and then 10th, you're doing like quick freeways,
Yes.
ultra
10th,
tag.
Yeah, 10th is when I really got into the graffiti scene, or what I consider the graffiti scene for my side of town, Santa Monica. I was with some older cats from the neighborhood, and I just looked up to them and wanted to be like them, be around them, and I would just, not trying to force anything, not trying to force any like friendships, but I always tried to like be where they were at and see what they were doing, and they picked up on me being ambitious and wanting to kick it with them. So yeah, that turned into painting on the freeways and giving me a name Ultra and hitting black books and carrying a streak everywhere I went and kind of mobbing it up in those times.
And at some point, you come across this after-school program that's ran by, who's the teacher?
The teachers at this after-school program were Defer and Heaven from K2S, and yeah,
Which is crazy.
Yeah, that was pretty unreal for them to come through, and the little that I knew at that time of the history, it was awesome to meet them and get to like just pick their brains a little bit, because they were so humble, they were so helpful, in like they were just down for the youth, they were down for the kids, or us, and yeah, and we had a blast hanging out with them at the after school class. And on Saturdays they would set up these little makeshift walls for us, and they would school us on spray painting techniques, and that was fun. That was really cool.
How many years later do they let you in the crew and say, okay, you're one of us now?
Oh man, so that was 2008, 2009 that I met them, and they had me come around. I'd come around to events that were happening, and even like events that Slick was having, and I didn't even know Slick personally at the time. I just knew Def, I knew Heaven. They'd bring me around as like just their little like student that's coming around following them, and then around 2017, I mean, just to summarize it, 2017 was when Sleepy and Prime and Heaven, we were at Robert Graham's studio. They had just had their show, and they kind of pulled me outside, and they'd seen me around, they'd seen me help them on projects, and they were just like, yo, we're gonna make you crew, and we're gonna put you on, and we're gonna have you keep rocking with us, and that was pretty awesome.
And so Slick, for him, this is roughly this has roughly been about 15 years that he's been around K2S.
Yeah.
Right?
So they said I met him a long time ago. He probably came around as a little kid
Christian Mingle, that's where they first met.
to one of my things, but I don't recall. But yeah, because they're like the little youngsters coming around, whatever,
The roadies, the groupies.
Yeah. Yeah.
So 15 years he's with you guys at K2S, and he's basically assisting on some of the biggest pieces that are that are coming out of this crew. And now you guys have been working together now for roughly about 5 years, right? On pieces?
2018.
A little 6
Well,
years?
2018, he said.
Do you remember the first piece you guys did together?
Well, let me ask my better half. Tina?
Yes.
What was it?
I think it was Worcester.
Yeah,
Okay.
you were talking about
Yes.
that one earlier.
So, on some of these bigger walls, I like to bring in some assistants to help me pull these things off, because I got the vision, and but execution, they could be a mother. You know what I mean? They're big walls. So, I've worked with him. I've heard good things about him from the crew. So he helped me on that one, and that was. I noticed right off the bat his attention to detail and following orders, and he was really on it, and like first one there and last one to leave, and his work ethic was just like top notch, I mean, If I didn't know better, I thought you were Japanese or something, you know? Because I work with a lot of Japanese people too, and their work ethic is up there. But I really appreciate. I saw right off the bat his work ethic stood out above some of the other people that I've worked with. You know.
I think we landed in Worcester. I think that we landed in Worcester at 10 o'clock in the night, and we had a 2-hour drive from Boston to the actual location, and I was just hyped up. I was just ready to go, and we get to the wall, we project, and we finish projection maybe around 1 in the morning. And we were also with another crew member of ours, Copy, great dude. And I remember I looked at Slick after the projection, and I go, "Can I start filling in?" And Slick was like, "I mean, if you want, like the projection is up, we can wrap it up." And I was like, "Well, I'm probably not going to sleep tonight, so I'd rather not sleep and be here and put in work." So I think we wrapped that up around like 6 in the morning.
As you guys see him like jumping, like
Yes.
OSHA violations all over the place just to get it in.
Yeah, then fast forward right here, we're in Okinawa, and we had to disassemble the scaffolding system that they had set up for us. And because we needed to, Shinsan, yeah.
Yes, Shin had brought us to Okinawa to paint the extra large store, but there are so many rules. I mean, that one was like you could only paint on like 30% of the building or 60%. You couldn't have too much color, and you had to have this type of scaffolding up. So you see him kind of crawling up there, and I just remember the guys who built the scaffolding looking at me and Luke like, are you, like all panicked, because we would take apart the scaffolding in areas because, in order to hit a paint stroke, we would need it open. And they were like, they just got finished putting it all together. And they're like, you're ruining the integrity of the scaffolding, but we're like taking it apart like monkeys, and we're going down like from level to level. It was actually kind of fun. It was like playing on a little,
the culture
like a
there
jungle
is so,
gym.
it's so different, right? So when you're doing something that's not normal to them, like it's like debilitating. They just stop.
Oh
they're
yeah,
stuck,
he
their
was
mouth's like
bugging
that.
on us, like
yeah.
praying that nothing happened, and we didn't want to wear the helmets or the vest or nothing like that, because we're just, that's not used to how we get down, no masks, no harnesses, no scaffolding. Yeah, we make do.
So I got another question for you, Slick. At what point, right, in your career do you start getting the opportunities to now start working with brands like XL and Shin and Eli and Undefeated?
Well, I was pretty fortunate as far as streetwear and stuff. It was like the early 90s and stuff, late 80s, early 90s. I was fortunate to get in at that time. And things kind of just happened, like I think we did a brand called Third Rail early on. Was like,
Yeah,
we
you
did
mentioned
it
to me
as
that was your first
kind of a
brand.
counter to like Con Art, because Con Art was there and there's nothing like what I felt me and Risky could do at the time. So we kind of did that. And then from there I went to did a company called Fucked, and that was kind of like, it was kind of like a FU to the system, and even before that, I mean, if you want to go further, like
to this right here where you're like hanging out with Keith Haring?
No, even before.
Two before?
Yeah, but this is before like from Crazy Shirts days, you know what I mean? Like we were like in high school, like I saw everyone in Hawaii wears T-shirts, so we would do I would see them do a lot of parodies on different things and Wacky Pack stickers. So all this kind of stuff like stuck in my head. So when I got into streetwear, right away that was my go-to, was parodies. Like, I used to like to fuck with people and like do little flips on every. Even our first collaboration with Extra Large wasn't a collaboration. It was a diss on Extra Large. It was called Extra Small. So they had the ape and Extra Large. So we did the Extra Small with like a little chimp and kind of like bagging on them. And then we ended up doing a store together called Extra Fucked. So.
You can't make this up. I got to give you credit, man. You're probably, when it comes to like,
I thought you'd appreciate some
wit
of that,
and puns,
some of that
like
stuff.
you're by far like the industry leader in this space, right? And you've really fathered for the last 30 years an entire generation with street culture. And most of the stuff that you guys have been building over these last couple of years, the crazier part is that it lives and breathes and like, you guys are just like,
But I never stopped painting. Like all the years we were doing like designing and trying to make money and get our hustle on or whatever, whatever we had to do, I always found time to go paint. You know, I mean, that was my love, you know, like, and it still is. Like, if I can go write on something or smell some paint, you know, I'm going to 21 years sober, but I still like the fumes of spray paint, you know. And
no, it's
Yeah.
amazing, really, what these guys have done. Luke,
Yes, sir.
this is the first piece now that you guys have worked. You've been with the group for 15 years. This is the first one where you're getting like the lead title, caption, credit, right? Like, what does that mean to you now being here in this moment?
It's awesome, especially with somebody like Slick. I always remember when I would take part in walls with Heaven and Deffer, and not to say that I wasn't getting recognized, because I was, and they would give me my props, but I was never trying to force my name into the equation. I was always down to participate. I was always down to help, down for the crew, down to rock, down to do, yeah, yes sir. And and so that kind of boiled over into when I was doing work with Slick. I was never like, oh, I'm here too. It was no, him. He's the guy.
You're doing it for the love.
I'm here to work. I'm here to get after it. I'm here to do what I can as best as I can, and and yeah. So coming now to this point, it's pretty awesome because I get to do what I'm comfortable with, but I get to soak up game at the same time, and kind of full circle in a sense. I get to watch Slick kill it on the details of the hand, and I get to work my magic, but then he gets to help me like figure out ways that it can be done better. And I'm always open to not so much criticism, but just help, just experience. I mean, experience over my attempt at like whatever. I know what I'm doing, but he like
Yeah,
but we have a good time. And
you
and
guys
it's
have
like,
had, what I've seen is you have a great relationship, right? There's a lot of trust and respect, right?
Yes.
And there's a clear understanding and willingness to do what's needed to collectively get it done.
Yeah,
And
for sure.
I've had the opportunity, one, to see, you know, some of what you've done here, but really just hanging out with you guys over the years as I've grown into wherever I'm going. But when I saw you do the piece with Sleeps for us in Vegas at the store,
Yes.
I was just really impressed by your work ethic. And I've always been impressed with your creativeness and just how much outside the box you guys are doing. And, you know,
This thing changed up because originally, like, you know, when these things come about, like, we don't just paint the first idea that comes to mind or whatever. I mean, that may have been how it was back in the day, but now, you know, we like to explore different concepts or whatever, you know.
yeah, and you were saying this is
Yeah, and you know,
Sidebar,
especially with the
you-
computer and everything now, I can do comps and see how it looks. And
this is your first rendering in north of 20 years, right?
yeah, and the thing is, like, I kind of blew off the whole rendering thing while I was at Art Center. You know, once you learn how to be, you know, I was an excellent draftsman. Like, I would kill it with all my life drawing, all that stuff. But once you learn how to draw like a photo or whatever, and then I'm just like, you know, I was like, I should have just taken a photo because I got to use photo reference anyway. So I kind of went from wanting to be a photo like realist painter to, oh, I got to make money. And so that's why I got to streetwear and, you know, that kind of stuff. But yeah, so I kind of know in the back of my mind I can do it, but there's no need for it for what I do, you know? And so a lot of the walls I have him assist me on, there's no kind of rendering. I mean, it's really graphic heavy. I said, we got a clean super vector. I mean, we're painting like, I wanted to look like human stickers up there, like, you know, like no overspray, no, you know, and so it's funny when we were doing this wall, we're actually going to do a whole collage of stickers. And I'm really into this like happy face and slaps and stickers. The whole wall is going to be like that. And we even did like a little practice wall in my neighborhood where we fully executed like a mini mural. And we did all the stickers and the slaps and the highlights and the shadows, and, you know, took a good like week out of our time just planning this like mini mural execution, what we're going to do here. And then last minute we're like, nah, let's switch it up to this old concept that I had was based on the Escher illustration of the hand drawing the hand. But let's make it the 2024 version and actually render one of the hands. And it's an idea I've been kind of throwing around over the past years. I actually was possibly going to do it with Drew Merritt at one point. I ran it by Drew. I was like, hey, Drew, I know you like to render stuff. I was like, hey, let's do the two hands drawing. But our paths just never, everyone gets busy and our paths never crossed again, And I was just like, I've been seeing a lot of Luke's work and his oil painting, and I'm like, you know what? This might be a good way for Luke to floss some of his, his rendering skills. And for me, it's a great breath of fresh air, change from doing all the cartoon stuff. And not to mention the realistic hand, drawing the cartoon hand, kind of really pushes that whole narrative of that, coming off the paper. And,
well, it really takes knowing it like the back of your hand to a whole nother level.
Yeah, so that night we scrapped the idea, and then, we had to do the photo shoot. So I'm like, setting up the lighting, and I need the harsh lighting with the pen, and we photoshopped it in, and we're like, you know what? I think that's the one. And it just fit for that particular wall. And I'm so glad we chose that composition with the pens going up and down, because if we did the composition I did with the angled pens, we'd probably be another 3 days behind right now, just to get that angle perfect. But since I just compositionally, I dropped the markers to be up and down, it helped us because we can, drop those lines and, use the building to help us guide, the straight edge. So this is all kind of new to us in a way. I mean, to do this scale, I'm no, Kamea, and some of these guys and Tristan and these guys, they render stuff all the time, so we're kind of learning as, we go, but, I was like, ain't no thing. My art school stuff is coming right back, and it helps having this guy in my corner,
Not to cut you off, but right here, this is the original reference that was from MC Escher in 1948.
Yes. That's the...
And it's literally drawing itself off of the paper. As if you guys have, if time permits, please go back hallway here and check out the work, which I think you guys are probably 75, 80% of the way through.
Maybe like 70, probably like 70% there. There's a lot up there, but there's a lot more that we got to do.
Right. So
yeah.
At the beginning of this, the thing that I asked was think about the hours and the effort and the trial and error aspect of it, right? So for some of us that are here that are fans and have an appreciation for what you guys are building, how many hours of prep to get to even put the projection up there?
I believe it was 2 days of prep work, if I'm remembering correctly, because it
and
also
he cried exactly like that baby when he took 2 days to do it. I was there.
You gotta understand, it's more than that in my mind, because we did a whole week of planning of the other wall and then executing another wall, which was like a week and a half, because in between I'm getting ready for a show in August, and we're starting to get product made for this thing, and then another client calls and says, oh, we want to use some of your graphics for a race car, but we needed it yesterday. And I'm like, okay, but we're in the middle of painting. So that's kind of how a day in my life is when I'm at the studio. I got things coming in, and I got guys in the back helping me with my new series, like getting the stencils ready for some of my other canvases. But it's always bouncing back and forth from computer work to drawing to running around the block and doing that test wall, so it's...
So that's just up to the leading up part, right? Yeah. So then how long did it take to, because then before that you had to prime the wall and clean it up and get it smoothed out, right? That took what, 2 days?
Yeah, the volunteers of the Long Beach walls, they prepped it pretty good for us so that by the time we got there, we could set the projector up, get it right on point, and even then the projection is not an easy task.
Transition, right.
Yeah.
And so...
But Cassie called and was like, Slick, can you guys finish buffing? And I'm like, no. I didn't mean to say it in a rude way. Can you get somebody to come buff your wall? And I was just like, no, I can't, because I'm literally already my time is already there. And I'm like, I'm not putting Luke up there to buff because I need him fresh to start painting. So yeah, sorry, Cassie. I didn't. I know in text it comes out really cold.
I did not expect
when you say no.
I did not expect these bullets to come out the chamber this evening.
But yes, no. But we figured out something. We called in another guy from my crew and who came in clutch, and then I thought he was gonna grab the sprayer and knock it out because like, why are you guys rollering it?
So we go from all
But
this confusion.
Then he rollered it too, and I was just like, why did you take?
Gets us past it.
Whatever.
And then, how many you guys started Monday or Tuesday?
Started painting Sunday.
Sunday.
Projected Saturday night.
How many? And you've been coming every day at.
Every day I'll try and get there between 9 and 10, and then just try and be on the wall until about 8:30. That's when it gets dark. That's when I feel that I'm not burning
Not really
myself
good with
out.
math, but what's that? 4 days, 5 days, 6 days?
Yeah.
5 days in now.
Yeah.
And you got like another.
Probably another two solid days of maximized efficiency, trying
So-
to get.
Well,
With
if we do the paper wrinkles and stuff, I mean, you're probably like another day.
Yeah, no, I'm never opposed to if something takes a little bit longer. I'm infamous for having underestimated projects, and I always feel that it's better to just say, hey, it's gonna take 4 days when in reality it's gonna take 2 days, but I want to give myself or give us that wiggle room because these walls are can be insanely underestimated with size, and when we're up on the details, it looks kind of ridiculous, but then we get to zoom out, we get to back away from it, and it all kind of comes together. But the perspective of it's like trying to draw on a sheet of paper, but dipping ink in or a needle into ink and trying to cover the whole thing. It's so meticulous and so yeah.
So
The pens are kind of kicking out because they're so long, right? And then
Yes. Yeah.
I know in this room there's probably a few, and some of the people that are watching on the stream, you have people that are looking and following your footsteps. What would you tell the guy or girl that might want to take your career path? Like, what are those words of encouragement that you would give that might motivate them to work on the next piece when they might want to be giving up?
Yeah, let me.
It's like, I got this.
Yeah, I am not great at my self-motivation. It's really hard to force myself into getting a project done and starting a project. But I've heard a lot of things from Slick, from Deffer, from my older homies from the crew, and a lot of those phrases revolve around discipline, focus, determination, and those aren't reliant on motivation. Those aren't reliant on how I feel or the emotions or the things that are going on externally, because my control ends at my fingertips. And if I have the control to do it, I'm going to do it. And there's times where I don't. There's times where my self-control fails me. And there's times where I have to just buckle down and suck it up. And yeah, there's motivation that can drive at some points, but sometimes it's all focus and it's all discipline and it's a grind, and it's sometimes it's not fun. Sometimes I'm not having a good time doing it, but the reward you seek is in the work you avoid. And I'll always feel like, okay, if I'm avoiding something, it's because when I do it, I'm gonna feel so much better when it's done. I'm gonna feel like the reward of having passed through it is the payoff. And I love the journey too. As miserable as I am sometimes in the situations, it's the journey. You got to embrace the suffering or the struggle or the figuring it out or the confusion or the not knowing what to do, because it I don't know. It's a good learning. I don't know. I love to learn. I love to soak up lessons learned, and if I could learn from other people's experiences, from my own experiences, I'm always going to find a way to try and apply the lesson and figure something out and make it work. And yeah, at the end of the day, it's all on you. Like there's no one that can hold you back. There's no one. I don't mean to turn this into a motivational speech, but
but it's needed.
But yeah, it's Yeah.
This is where you throw the mic now. Throw the mic. Like,
Yeah, so there was an awesome moment when we were painting in Edmonton where this was a massive wall. The outlines for the letters and the hands were about a roller thick, where we could roll the whole outline and just clean it up with the can. It was a massive wall, and there was an area where we just kind of parked the lift right in front of it, and there was a huge, maybe 10-foot, like semi-curved top of a hand, top of a finger. And me and Slick both kind of look at it, and he looks at me, and I look at him, and he goes, "That line ain't gonna paint itself. Like, let's get to it." Like, we were waiting for it to like magically fix itself. But
a lot of times when we're coming up with these concepts, you're not thinking about how difficult it is to execute. I'm just looking at like, oh, how dope it's gonna be, you know? Until you get up to the wall, and then you're like, oh shit, how are we gonna make that work? You know what I mean? And that's part of we were making our own little challenges and knocking them out. And that's what's fun about this wall is like, you know, the challenges on making this photorealistic kind of looking hand as best we can, you know, and bouncing things back and forth and trying stuff on there. And it's like, well, that works. And then we get too detailed, and we started drawing like little pores in the hands and things like that. Or like, let's make it super realistic, you know, onto like almost like when I was like tweaking kind of days. And then you back up and realize, oh, no, that's visually just too much. So we have to go back and tone it down. And, you know, so, you know, so going back and forth, you know?
Yeah, there's a line, and we don't want to steer too much in the soft direction, but we don't want to steer too much in the hyper-realistic, too detailed, just kind of shooting ourselves in the foot. So we got to just find where it levels out and where it works detail-wise, but also efficiency-wise, and where it can still read very good and very detailed.
So before I get to your motivational suggestion for the person that might want to follow your footsteps, for you guys that are watching and see this behind us, this was the little test run that they did days before the piece that they did outside. Now, to put this in a perspective, this is maybe 8 to 12 feet.
No, oh, you mean height?
Height-wise?
Oh, man.
No, we're about there. So what is that?
That's
Maybe like 15 feet
okay.
tall.
So this
Yeah,
is 15
Like a
feet
little
tall.
mini test, like
Right,
comp.
and so what isn't translating much here, but you could kind of see it as some of these lines that are supposed to be the wrinkles of like the paper or a sticker, right?
Torn, you know,
And being torn, right? And it doesn't really translate that well at this scale, but if you ever get the opportunity to find this piece, this is kind of by his compound. But when you go back outside and you look at the one that's out in the back of this hallway, or when you go, that's over 60 feet tall. And this was their first try days before it.
and in
And
my
it looks like they've been doing this for 100 years.
I feel like I got tricked on this wall because when Cassie sent me the photos, it was really deceiving because there was a car in the foreground. And if you look at the photo, it looks like the car is right in front of the wall. And that electrical box looks like, oh, it's just a little electrical box. But I was like, I had something like inside me was like, hey, you know what, Luke? You guys better go check and find out what kind of texture we're dealing with. Or I just wanted to check the texture. So they came out and looked at the wall, and they're like, yo, Slick, this shit's big. and he sent me a picture, and he's standing near the first, like, you know, the first block. And his head, and Luke is a tall guy. And I was like, holy, like, what did we just agree to? Like, and this is like squeezing stuff in between, you know, other
20 other
projects,
jobs,
other
yeah.
things we got going on, you know? And yeah, so we're like, you sure you ordered enough paint? You know? Yeah, we were just like, but yeah, so I felt like I kind of got, but yeah, it's either go big or go home, right? Like, I'm not trying to do smaller shit, you know? Like, I'm getting older now, and, you know, I don't know how many more walls I got in me, and, you know, I got to reserve it for, like, the epic shit, you know? I mean, a big inspiration for me is probably, like, growing up is seeing, like, Weiland's work. And, you know, with if you follow his career, this guy, dude, he's done, like, hundreds of these whale mural, like, I mean, look at the Long Beach one. I mean, I talk about getting humbled. Like, you think you got a good work ethic? I mean, this guy did the whole Long Beach Convention Center and the roof. And, you know, so these are all like people I look up to, whatever. And it's crazy that now these are like friends. And so I talked to him about it too. Now he's like, yeah, that was 1,000 gallons of, you know, paint, you know? So like, it kind of puts it in perspective, like, you
That's
know, like,
not
oh,
days, that's weeks,
like,
months.
Yeah, like you ain't shit, you know, like our little things, like, you know, but yeah, we try and keep it fun, right? But
Yes.
So, for both of you, what are things that we should be expecting, seeing from you guys? What would you like to work on going forward? And yeah, what do we need to turn those notifications on and keep an eye out for?
we already got the part 2 and part 3 already like, boom, 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 right?
Yeah, we've had some talks, especially when we're up there on the lifts. We talk about stuff. Yeah, more projects. I mean, I'm always down for the cause. Whenever this guy hits me up, I'm always fitting it into my schedule. So it's.
Like, I mean, I right while we were doing this, I'm like, we're not even done with this, but I'm like, I already see it. I was like, the part 2 is like, because I have another image where there's 2 spray cans spraying each other. I did an NFT of it where they're spraying each other. I was like, let's do the spray can version, right? And then we're like, you know, I know he loves tattooing. I mean, I love tattoos. And I was like, let's do the tattoo version where the 2 tattoos are tattooing each other, you know, and then we can, you know, have fun with the rubber gloves and do the transparencies in the gloves. So we're already thinking like that, like how we can like keep pushing it and, you know, or not. But yeah, but you know, let's get through this one first.
Yes.
But we're having a good. At least I am, and I hope he is, because, you know, I hate for people to be like assisting me on walls or whatever, and just like, kind of like dreading it the whole time, or like don't want to be there or whatever. But I don't feel that from him, unless he's really good at hiding it, you know. But it feels like he's eager to learn, and. I mean, sometimes it's almost like, I don't know if he's clowning me, because I'll hit like a line or something, and then he'll kind of like, ooh, like, he'll say something like that. And I was like, is this motherfucker trying to clown or something? You know what I mean? Like, but no, he's like, I guess he's a fan first of the craft, you know what I mean? And I guess, you know.
Yeah,
What I've noticed, and I don't mean to cut you off, but what I've noticed from both of you guys is that you're really true. Like, you truly love what you guys do.
You have to.
And it shows in the work. It shows in the work ethic. It shows in the energy that you display. You know, I took these 45 minutes again to be able to kind of spend the time to get you guys to understand how much time, energy, and effort, and how much love and passion has been behind all these years of work. And hopefully that translated, and I've done a good enough job to kind of match what you guys have really done, which I haven't, and I think it's extremely dope. This right here, I'm gonna stop to kind of further validate. You were telling me here in the corner that this was a, what was it, Command Arrow and stop. I learned, I got it right on the first try. This was a last minute phone call.
Yes.
This was 30 straight hours. How many people?
Me and my brother Quick from the crew.
And then jumped in the car and went right back home.
Yes.
You got to be almost delusional to be this great. And you guys have carried it very well, and are amazing ambassadors for this culture, man. And I just want to say thank you for allowing me to be the guy to hang out here. Nah,
Yes.
man, it's always love.
Thank you. Yes.
So I want to open it up to the crowd, and if the live stream has questions, if we can maybe get those, or anybody in the crowd that might have questions for these 2 amazing gentlemen, I think now's the time. Let's take like 15 or 20 minutes to answer some questions, and then we'll let them work the room. Questions?
Can you tell us about the adventures of Saturday night?
The projecting Saturday night. So Saturday night, pull up, and we got to figure out the placement of the projector, because we're kind of in an alley. We got to get the whole image in there. We've done it before where we kind of piece the image on there, and we'll have to kind of compensate later sometimes. I mean, for example, the Palama settlement in Hawaii, I believe it was early last year, was that was nuts, because we had to project the majority of the center, and we tried to line it up where it would fall right in the middle. But when we projected the left and the right side, the spacing on the fingers was different on each side, so we had to take the right side projection and recalibrate it during the day, and just had to follow what was there and move it over about 2 feet. So that's just to touch on the complications of having to figure out how to project the placements and all that stuff.
Not
And
to mention, I missed my flight from Honolulu, so yeah.
yes,
So
yes,
I was like,
yes,
you gotta
yes.
handle this, Luke. You know what I mean? Like,
yes.
yeah, because I was still in Honolulu because I had to shoot over there for take care of some family emergency. But yeah, and I called Luke. I was like, dude, you're projecting tonight, right? And he's like, yeah. He's like, don't worry, Slick, I got this, you know. And that's comforting to know, like, Luke is on it. You know what I mean? I don't have to worry. Like, that's what I mean. Like,
Yeah. So when it came down to projecting, when we got it in placement, there's that walkway that's kind of across the way. We were able to put it down that way and angle it where both of the hands fit. The caps on both ends, we had to just finesse that, but it can't project the whole thing for us. So we got to figure out those ends, but that was nothing. And it took about maybe 3 or 4 hours to project. The top hand was about an hour to an hour and a half, and then the bottom hand and the shadow was probably around 2 to 3 hours, just to project not every little detail, but just map out the shades and the different colors that we would use to get the blends in there, and just so that it was also easy to read. I didn't want to do a bunch of chicken scratch up there that Slick's looking at me like, dude, what? You had to sketch out every little pore? We're going to fill this up. Like, just give us an outline of where things are going.
locked shape so we know where to.
Yes. Yeah. So that was that. We were going to use a generator. The generator wasn't really pulling through, but then we had some friends come through with some extension cords, and we were able to wire it actually from this building down the alley, down that little walkway, and make it work. So yeah, it was pretty cool. It came out nice. Yeah. Oh, any other questions?
Live stream?
Or
My earliest collection of making a living off art was actually embedded by my father. Put it in my head, and he had like a little import-export business, and they did like Hawaiian photo albums, you know, and he knew that I drew and, you know, things like that. So he's like, hey, they used to call me Ricky back then. He's like, Ricky, come over here, like do me like a hula girl and like a little surfer dude and like and a dolphin holding a surfboard or something like that. So that was my first commission. He actually gave me money for doing a drawing, and then to see that product on the shelves. And this is like, you know, before I was 10, you know. So early on, I knew I could make candy money or whatever from being good at drawing, you know. That was that for me. I don't know where it happened for.
So you were making shekels at 10 years old off of art.
In that paper.
Yeah, I feel that for me it was out of high school. I would have jobs. I'd work regular jobs here and there, but it always gravitated towards I always gravitated towards art. People were always hitting me up for little random things, little drawings that I would do for $50, or little pieces that I could just do, that I could learn with. I mean, and there was a lot of stuff that I was just doing for free just to get the experience. But when it came down to a point of like, okay, well, I need to prioritize my time into doing art, and I mean, it always goes back to the crew. I would have heaven in my ear telling me, if you want to paint, if you want to get paid and you want to do this like a job, you got to treat it like a job. You go to a job, you go to a full-time job, you clock in from 8 to 3. You go in there from 9 to 5. He goes, you got to do that in your studio. You got to be your own boss. You got to be the one that's like, no, you're late. You got and hold yourself accountable and not punish yourself in a bad sense, but like if you're late, that means you stay late. If you got to get the hours in, you can't see it as an easy day or anything like that, because I definitely do.
That creates a lot of separation. And for an example with that, with Luke, like a lot of people don't know, he had his first art show when he was still in high school.
Yeah. Yeah, I put together an art show that was small. I believe it was about 10 canvases. I loved music. I still love music, but all kinds of music. I mean, ranging from like Beethoven to Pete Rock and CL Smooth. So it was like a whole variety of things. I did a Deltron canvas, an AC/DC, a Fat Joe, just canvases, just some portraits with some graph pieces. I mean, I was all about music. I believe the show was called To the Beat of Art. I don't know what I was thinking. I was trying to be hip. I was trying to be cool. But even then, it was an art show.
Just learning all the ways to how not to do it.
Yeah, yes, yeah. Yeah, and even through that show, though it was great, it was a great turnout. I had a lot of family, a lot of friends come through. I didn't sell anything, and I didn't mind that. I was, because I was down to learn. I was down to figure out, okay, well, maybe I got to do something else, or maybe I got to figure out a different type of art that would be more attractive to other people and whatnot, but still staying true to myself, because I still got to have my passion projects. I still got to have my things that I enjoy painting. I do commissions back to back, and those are great. I learned so much from those, but there are a lot of times where I do need to paint for myself, and whether it's for a paycheck or for recognition, it's just I don't know. It's tough, because sometimes the focus is money, but sometimes the focus is I gotta be fulfilled. I gotta be happy. I gotta be enjoying what I'm doing, and I gotta see it as not a waste of time, because I don't wanna put in a bunch of hours on something that at the end of the day I'm just like not happy with it, or not happy with.
I'll ad-lib to that, right? And to kind of, there's that battle, that internal battle with creator artists. I'm not an artist, but I do create. Yes. Right? And the one thing that will always show through and always break your heart is when you do something for money, right? You have to be okay with where you're at, where your support system is when you're creating. And you have to be okay with that. It's part of the process, right? The second that you kind of push because you think that you could monetize a little bit more, or this might be the separation, is where there's something in your equation that isn't correct, and your math is going to be off, and it's going to hurt, and it's going to make you want to quit. And a lot of us quit when that happens. These guys didn't.
I've had some.
And they really don't do too much for money. Don't let them fool you. Even though they get a lot of money for the stuff that they do on the side.
I've had some pretty wild conversations with my wife, Laura. She's my #1 supporter, and she will. She would be motivating me like, dude, you gotta charge for your stuff. You gotta, like, she knows what she's doing. I'm the knucklehead. I'm an idiot. I don't know what I'm doing.
You can't, as creator, you can't be the one also selling it. You're gonna give it away.
That is very true. That's huge.
And
yes.
Your significant other, like the three of us, where we do have the tie, is all three of our wives are like our other side of the business, and
Yeah, I wouldn't be able to do any of the things I do without my wife, Tina. She's, I mean, no, that's.
Like, come on, ladies.
I'm not just saying that because she's my wife and I got to go home with her, but
stand up for 2 seconds. Tina and Laura, please give them that. These are the real rock stars behind the crew. These are the ones that are the glue. These are the ones that the ideas are getting bounced off. These are the ones that are taking the negative energy unnecessarily and are still there supporting and making them better people day in and day out.
She's like, you agreed to what? For how much? No, like, yeah, because I'll be the dumb one to agree to dumb shit for next to nothing, But no, she's without her, like, I couldn't do a lot of this stuff, I couldn't be the artist that I am,
it's tough
and it's just, that's just real talk,
like awkward, right?
And yeah, she reminds me every so often too. And you magically got a drawer full of clean socks and clean underwear, and you can pay for gas. You know what I mean? Like. I don't know how it happens, but yes, you just got a card that magically re-ups itself. But no, she absorbs a lot of that stuff that you take for granted. I mean, it's hard to be that as an artist and try and do all the mathematics and try and do the billing and dude, it's a lot because, you know, I'm trying to go in another zone and use the creative side of my brain. I'm not trying to think about loot, you know? That's the last thing on my
It's
mind.
like we talked about earlier, right? It's like taking a VCR, opening it, and seeing what it does, and then leaving it alone, and then thinking it's gonna connect itself back.
Yes.
Yeah.
So yeah, it's important to have, you know, a partner that, you know, got your back, you know?
Yeah, a partner, a support system, and to know that you're always going to be figuring it out. It's a constant learning thing. I'm still trying to figure out how to do my stuff. Yeah.
What do we got back there, bud? Oh, that's a great question. How do you sustain the crew? How do you prevent the egos from getting in the way?
The egos are wild. There's and self egos. I mean, so there's a canvas that comes up on this loop that it was with the UFC fighter Chito Vera and his dog, his workout partner, and me and our other crew member Deffer. We put together this portrait for him. I remember I had just finished it, and I took a clean picture of it. I brought it to Slick's shop. My homie 3 was there, and I was showing him the iPad. Slick comes out. He's like, "Well, what's going on here?" And I show him, and he's like, "Oh man, looks awesome." We had some other homies that were like loving it, and Slick comes out, and not in a way of like you were finding the bad things, but you looked at it and you said, "Oh, like." Yeah, he totally gave me a perspective that I needed. He told me something that maybe if my ego was the driving thought, I would have taken it offensively and been like, well, why you got to say anything? Like what? But I was like, no, and I even said it. I go, well, what else do you see? Like help me. Like I'm showing this as like oh look what I did, but at the same time I'm like I'm trying to get better. I'm trying to figure something out. I know this isn't.
You were asking me for my opinion.
Well, yes. No, I'm like, what do you think?
I didn't know you
Like,
wanted to blow smoke up your ass.
no. It's definitely it's being open to other people's opinions and being okay with opposing thoughts and being able to find the right way to intent your communication of your either disagreement with it or your agreement with it, of your.
Where my motivation was coming from by giving you a creative criticism, right? Or constructive, they call it constructive criticism. It wasn't because some people might criticize your work, I think, to put you down. You know, there's those type of people, but, you know, I love this guy. He's in my crew. If I give him any sort of criticism, it's because I want him to come up. I want him to be badass at what he does. So I'm trying to push him a little, you know, like I'm not just there to, you know.
No, and that's the thing. I didn't feel that for a second because no, of course. No.
It's turning into a therapy session right now.
We're
So
good.
real quick,
We're good.
let me hug it out. Thank you. Let me try
No.
to answer this for him
Yes,
because we
yes.
kind of like
Yes.
So when you're in a business that doesn't start as a business, it becomes something like, oh, you're kind of good at this, you should do it, right? You have one that is kind of either right out the gate the visionary or is kind of pushed into you got to be the visionary, and being the visionary you can't get restricted in some of the noise that becomes the logistic aspect of being like, whether that's accounts payable or sourcing the next deal or scaling, right? And then there has to be a lot of trust. You're gonna be working 24/7 with that person, and you gotta really learn. The ones that are fortunate, the 3 of us, have been able at some point along the journey to be able to figure out, okay, this doesn't go home. This only stays at work. And yeah, sometimes it spews over, but like you just witnessed like a critique which was intended with constructiveness and like for positive can be misconstrued. And and you also have to understand like the temperature of the person that you're talking to in that moment, because they might not have the hours in interaction to really understand that your you're making suggestions, or your question is coming in a way because you don't understand what it is that you're looking at, and it could be rubbed the wrong way. It's not for everybody, but for us, like, we need the stability, we need that rock, we need our women to be in their corner telling us, like, yo, you got this shit, you're gonna keep killing it, don't worry about it, we're gonna make it work. And then on the other side, we're the ones that are running we're like this, right? And then they're the ones that are looking at the account, and we got to keep telling them, don't worry about it. Don't freak out if the account's at 0, because tomorrow it'll be right? Did I kind of nail that?
Yeah. Yes.
Kind of?
Yeah.
Okay. Any other questions? Yes.
Oh, what was the last part? Sorry. Yeah, wow. Yeah, it's crazy because when I came out here to Cali, the deal with my folks was that I was gonna stop doing graffiti and to go to art school and be this great illustrator or, fine artist or whatever I was gonna be. But I actually met my graffiti crew out here, and, it was on, but it was so crazy because in Hawaii, our idea of graffiti and hip hop was very East Coast. You think of like Beach Street and that sort of graffiti and that style. Coming here was like, I got a reality check. It was like, the gang culture, of course, was really prevalent in
1999, the first time you ever put the LA hands on a wall.
right, with my crew. And yeah, my crew must have tripped out when they saw me come fresh off the boat from Hawaii, because it's the 80s, so we were already kind of wearing fruity colors and this and that, but they were all like creased up and white t-shirt and like, I'm all happy go lucky. Like I didn't realize, like, right around, I just walk around the wall and someone's getting shanked, or like, what I mean? Like, I was oblivious to a lot of that, going to yards by myself without knowing, and I was just oblivious. But I quickly learned from the crew where I could go, what not to do, how to, but yeah, I mean,
Gang signs.
Oh, yeah, so he just reminded me too, like, the inspiration for even doing the hand thing was actually some hands being thrown up from Hazard County, because I would go by Hazard, and there was like one of the gangsters threw up an H on the wall, and it was like kind of scrawled on there, kind of rough, But I was like, oh, okay, so it influenced me to do that LA on that other piece, So I was just like, with them throwing up their neighborhoods and things like that. So, by no means did I ever claim to be from that, but I definitely got heavily influenced because that was my
culture.
my crew,
The surroundings.
The whole lowriding thing is like I'm having like I don't know, like I kind of missed that whole era of 90s like lowriding, because I was so like I was all about graffiti and aerosol. Like, I didn't really care about anything else. I was all about it, But as I'm getting older now, like, I always loved cars and that culture. So now I'm getting like hydraulics and things like. First I got airbags in my car and the OG, but now I want hydraulics so I can do like the 3-wheel motion and gas hopping and. Yeah. It took a while. Like, I got clowned so much for my like airbags and people talking shit and that's not low riding, whatever. But I was just enjoying my cars, But I'm glad I took the baby steps and actually learned about the culture before just jumping in and buying a low rider. I actually went with the classic car and airbags, and it worked my way to like, now I got like a sick ass like low rider, But yes, the LA's, I can't imagine living back in Hawaii, even though I say Hawaii's my home because I was there from 1 through 18 years old. But I actually been here longer now, so I'm actually consider myself like a LA native now. I mean, even though I was a transplant, but I rep hard for this city, I love it, I couldn't imagine being anywhere else right now.
Yeah, I mean, when I was younger, I lived in Palm Springs. Palm Springs up until about 10 years old. 10 years old, moved to Santa Monica in the the Pico neighborhood of Santa Monica. And that was like a culture shock. That was like moving from Palm Desert, golf courses and all this stuff, moving to like a neighborhood where we're hearing gunshots and my neighbor is getting chased by a police dog and helicopters are shining their lights in my windows and stuff. And I'm just a kid, me and my mom and sisters. And I don't know, our neighborhood, my neighbors, my friends, like it just became like this little group that, like I just learned so much, and I had so much respect, and even for just the Hispanic culture. Like I was eating like pozole on like in Christmas and the holidays, and kicking it at like quinceañeras and like all like the birthdays, the shindigs, the get downs, and having a great time and loving it, and that just turned into my friend's older brother was a graffiti writer. Me seeing my first black book at 11 years old, going, okay, this is awesome. This is what I'm into, and then going straight home to my computer to go on Google and search up graffiti pieces, and finding all these pieces. And actually, some of the pieces that came up were the pieces that you and Risky did on Cloverfield and Colorado, I believe it was. Yeah, and I was looking at those pieces, and I remember just thinking like, oh man, there was just top of the line, like wild styles and backgrounds and shading and blending and just being so sucked into it. But I didn't know the name Slick. I didn't know the name Risk. This was at a time I was just so ignorant to it, but I just loved the look of it. And of course, classic cars, lowriders, that fell into it too. Getting older, getting into high school, knowing homies from the neighborhood and seeing the black and gray tattoo work that they had done, and just being super like attracted to that stuff. And yeah, I don't know, it was just I feel that it's something that you can find in other locations, but nowhere like California, nowhere like Los Angeles and the West Side and the coast right here. Yeah.
You were, with the hat, you were patiently waiting to ask a question. What was the question?
What? Who?
I was born July 5th, 1993.
67.
Favorite cartoon. Oh, dang.
Just blurt it out. First cartoon that comes to mind.
I don't know, SpongeBob, Simpsons, something like Rugrats.
Like Herman the Monster, like
Herman the Monster.
I love those heroes. What were they called? There was like Diaper Man and Rope Man. I forgot the name of it. It's been what was it? No, but they had Rope Man, they had Baby Man, and
Garbage Pail Kids?
dude, this is before you guys' time, man. It's like.
They had cartoons back then?
Yeah.
Were they like the little books that you
But
like?
yeah, that was one of my favorite cartoons. Mighty Heroes. Yeah.
He went
Yeah.
on Google. That was a Google
Yeah.
search. It's like Heroes 60s.
But yeah, I love
American
the older
cartoons.
stuff. I mean, growing up, Fat Albert was really dope. You know. Hey. But Scooby Doo.
Oh yeah, yeah.
So do we have any other questions that we'd like to ask while we got these guys in a cheery and laughing mood? Yes, sir.
This is all for all three. What's been your most memorable experience as an artist?
You've had some great ones.
Yeah.
Let me dig.
Mine is easy, right? I mean, I know a lot of you guys don't know, and I don't want to. The light is on them. But I own a couple sneaker stores. And at one point, I used to shower in the fountains in front of that mall. At another point, I work in that mall. And now I have the highest foot traffic store in that mall. And and now there's iterations of that store in Vegas, LA, and Saudi Arabia. Yeah. And it's started with one shoe and $40.
No, for me,
Top that.
no, for me, it's. I remember when I was starting out, I was like, someday I'm gonna be in the history books or in the museums and things like that. So now seeing our stuff there, seeing our stuff in the museums and in these books and things like that, and it's like, wow, we actually pulled it off, That's amazing to me. So it's a constant awe for me, like, oh, we're living in what I thought about or what I dreamt about, Not exactly how I envisioned it, you know what I mean? Like, of course, at an early age, you're pretty naive to like how things happen but I did envision it nonetheless, putting out, I'm a firm believer of putting out that kind of energy, and what you put out, you get back, with the secret and all that, you know what I mean? And I kind of do that in a way, like when I first painted the LA hands on the wall, I didn't know it was gonna be so iconic. I had no idea. I just thought it would it'd be dope to throw like this rat throwing up the little LA with wearing the white T-shirt. You know what I mean? Like it just kind of happened, and now I see it. Like everybody recognizes it from anywhere I go in the world. They're like, "Oh, you're the the LA hands guy, or you're the other cartoon Mickey Mouse hand guy." So that's kind of crazy for me. Like I'm living the dream, kind of.
Yeah, maybe. I mean, too many to really figure out one, but one that did strike with me as a crazy, memorable, or almost pivotal in just my thought process way of approaching projects and working on projects was a job that me and LUKEK had gotten last minute. We needed to fly out to New York, and we're flying out to New York to go do this job. And this was the first time that me personally and me and my brother LUKEK had been hit up to be flown out somewhere. We had flown out to Worcester, and we had gone to, I believe at that time we had been to Japan and China already as well. But it was kind of crazy to be hit up personally to be like, yo, we want to fly you guys out here. We'll buy your plane tickets. We'll get your hotel, and that was really cool. And so it was an awesome experience. But halfway through the project, because the way that we work on those projects is we figure out what we got to do, and it's on such a deadline, short notice that we just got to like snap into gear and just buckle down and do it and figure it out, get the paint, make it work. And we were kind of like 8 hours into like what was about to be maybe like a 20-hour shift. And we get a phone call that
look at that hair.
and we get a phone call that from Sleeps that our buddy Norm had passed away, and it was really difficult to be in the middle of the project and get a call like that. But we knew in the position that we were that, and what we had gotten to and what we had received and all this stuff, and how when I was younger I would see like the K2S dudes, and we're already from K2S at the time, so it was just awesome in that sense. And then to know Norm from back in his time, and then to see him now, and then to have been cool with him and to be a good friend to him, and for him to be so open and caring and nice with me, it hit pretty hard during that project. But it was a moment where I had to look at LUKEK and be like, yo, like he wouldn't want us to not paint this. He wouldn't want us to not finish this and be all bummed out, and I was like, look at, like, what if we were home? What if you were home? What if I was home and we're chilling, we're doing our jobs, and we get this news, boom, sucks. Like, and it sucks that we got it now, but look at the position that we're in. Something is kind of like full circle, where these are people that we looked up to, and these and we're doing what we love, and we're doing what can take care of us, and in a position and in a place that it is kind of it was mind blowing to us, and to kind of get some news like that was really difficult. But we pulled it through, and we tried to. It just kind of changed my perspective on if I ever get any terrible news like that, because it happens, but it was something that I want to just be doing the best that I can at all times, regardless of what is happening. And there's things that come in, inconveniences, and terrible things happen, but you gotta keep moving, and you gotta keep painting, and you gotta keep pushing forward. And yeah.
Not to, that just reminded me of another brother from our crew passed away too, is a Tempt, who was an amazing style master, you know.
Popped up a couple times, your mural.
So, I mean, anytime I start getting lazy, and for a long time, like I just think about, because he dealt with ALS for how many years, right? So he was hand style master, amazing, but couldn't do nothing. He was laid up in bed for I think 12 years or something. So anytime I caught myself getting lazy, I was like, well, imagine, you know, you're in my boy's shoes, or, you know, me, like, and that always like checked me and got me off my ass and be like, nah, you gotta, you know, you're here one time around, so make it count, you know. But
Yes.
I don't know if that had anything to do with, I just thought about Tempt right now. I'm just
Absolutely.
like, damn, you know.
Yes, I remember at the Bishop Museum when that was another project. I mean, the way we work is just we cram those hours together, and there was a time, maybe it's 3 a.m, and we're going, man, I'm getting kind of tired, but we got to get this done. We got to push through, and yeah, we just kind of like perspective, like, hey, man, like there's people that like would kill to be in the position that we're in, and health-wise or just whatever, and Tempt was a name that we brought up, and it kind of just, it's not to compare, it's not to anything like that, but it's a perspective. It's a perspective that is kind of overlooked sometimes, and it's those things where, like, just appreciating what you have in the moment that you realize these things and stuff like that. So yeah.
All right, any additional questions? You guys maybe take 1 or 2 more. Steve? That's a great question.
Yeah.
Thank you. I lucked out on getting that gig. I believe that was one of the first gigs I did with Eric Bernetti as Fucked Graphics. So me and Eric had a company called Fucked Graphics, and we were doing album cover art and streetwear. And that one fell on our lap through Delicious Vinyl. And yeah, I remember meeting with the group and them wanting we were throwing all kind of ideas around, and then we finally landed on the idea of they wanted to be on a roller coaster, because the name of the album was Bizarre Ride to the Far Side. So they said, we want the roller coaster to be Ebony Hayes, which was I believe a 70s porno actress at the time, you know, or, you know, that they grew up watching or something. So we're like, okay, so I had to do my research and find out who this is. So yeah, so the roller coaster that on the cover they're kind of going into her, and then on the back cover they're coming out of her mouth and they're smoking. And we decided to go to do it like traditional animation style, where I did the illustration in the back of the roller coaster as like acrylic painting, and the actual characters of them, the characters, we did it like a cell animation. So we actually bought cell paint and did it on clear cells and did the background separate, you know. Funny story on that one, like I just remember being so high back then. Sorry, El, that you got to. But painting rails for days and getting attacked by fire ants, and you know that cliche where they're like, oh yeah, I think there's bugs on me, you know, like, but there was really ants like biting me at the time, and I was actually trying to explain that to my partner, Bernetti, that he's like, Slick, you really need to get some sleep, because I was up for days like painting these little like rails on the roller coaster, you know, and but yeah, I got attacked by fire ants, and then I was so burnt out. I took the painting to Delicious Vinyl, the final art, because we were late, of course. And I was like, I laid it on the table at Delicious Vinyl, and I'm like, you know what? We're going to need more money because this is a lot of work, which is so unprofessional. You know what I mean? But I was just so burnt out from painting rails for so many days. And I remember the Delicious owners of Delicious Vinyl said, you'll never work in this town again, you know, but I remember them paying us, and it ended up being like such an incredible
it became the standard for artwork for like hip hop for the next
I was
30
like
years.
Like you have no idea, right? Like we had no idea while working on it that it would become that. But the music was banging for that time, and everything was just hit, you know? Like timing is everything, you know what I mean? And I was just fortunate to be there at that time, and I'm still working to this day, but I'm not doing album covers, but yeah.
All right, one more. Anybody else? Last one. What we got? There was 3 hands that went up. You guys down to take all 3 of those questions? Since 3 went up simultaneously, my man, what you got?
Okay.
I just had a question about on the business side. How do you guys continue to just get out there and do things? Do you guys make anything like an order or somebody that kind of keeps your schedule going and things of that nature, or do you kind of pick and choose based off of friends?
Do you pick and choose based off of friends?
Of what, jobs?
Yeah. How do you keep going? How do you maintain? How do you scale?
I don't have an agent, but well, I do have representation. I mean, the curative, you know, some of the guys are here. Like any stuff from like Asia kind of comes through that route for me. They've brought a lot of big jobs for us for like leaning sneakers and things like that. In the States, I don't really have an agent, but everything goes through my wife. You know, she screens everything. You know.
Yeah, those claps aren't happening hard enough.
But you know, and people know this, but sometimes they try and go around her and try and hit me like in the DMs, or you know, or if they have my text and try and get me to commit to stuff like, well, Slick said he'd do it, you know what I mean? And she's like, no, you know, like everything has to go through her, you know. So, but yeah, and I guess the further along you're in your career, you get to be a little bit more selective. Like back in the day, I wasn't. I would take on whatever came our way. But yeah, he brought me like he brought us like, for example, a vape.
We had an opportunity to do a vape together.
And you know, the money was good, you know, and I was like, yeah, I'll do it, whatever. Like, so I agreed already, right? I was like, I'll take it, whatever. But right away, my wife is like, she reminded me, like, she goes, honey, I'm dealing with emphysema. She goes, I don't think you should be promoting that, you know what I mean, or putting your name attached to something.
I had no idea. I felt like a jerk once he told me. I was like,
but in my mind, I was like, oh, that's easy loot. You know what I mean? Like, oh yeah, I'll slap a graphic on there, put my name on. Like, but she was like, well, not, you know, she was like, oh, all money's not good money. You know what I mean? Like, she's like, so she kind of checked me on that, and she goes, you don't want to be the cause of some youngster getting emphysema. And I was like, okay, you know,
so plan B,
I respect that. You know what I mean?
It went to sleeps.
Yeah, so Sleepy ended up getting it, and you know, yeah, but
it wasn't so bad.
Yeah, so, but I'm fortunate enough to be in a position to do that. You know what I mean? That.
Luke, do you want to answer that one too?
About an agent.
How do you continue to scale and generate money and go bigger as you've been going on?
I'm very
First time here? You had a little too many drinks?
I'm very antisocial. I'm very off social media. I get what I can when I can. I know that's not an efficient way of. I'm surprised.
It's his first time here. I don't know if you've noticed.
Like I told him we're gonna go on stage and talk about stuff, and then he's like, "Oh, okay." Like, yeah, I'm glad you made it.
Yeah,
up, you know?
yeah.
Look, this is his kind of coming out party in a sense, right? Like getting this credit for Luke and the world now recognizing that his name is attached to that is going to create curiosity. That's going to allow him to get opportunities.
I gave him a choice. I mean, we asked him from jump. We're like, dude, you know, because he was going to work on the wall regardless, right? So I was like, do you want to be an assistant on this one and run it the same way we always do? Or do you want to I hate to use that word
You wanna run
collab,
point-
but I was
point.
like, yeah, you want to do this together, like a collaboration one, figure this one out. And, I guess, he had to think about it and figure it out. Like, because, yeah, I go, you want to run it, be assistant, I'll figure out how to get you paid and assist you, for this one, whatever. But if you're going to be my partner on this one, you're going to have to take a hit on this one. Like, because powwow don't pay shit. Like, we're even though I pay you to assist me on things, but like, no, we're going to do this one for free. And, the good stuff will come later. And I had to like, kind of, but I left it totally up to him, however you want to run it. You know what I mean? Like,
which is it's really big and of a moment, and it's rare. Think about every creator that you've seen, muralist, anybody that's outside, that their name has become a household name. They've all had help. But how many names do you know under them that helped them, that got their credit? None.
Yeah.
And then the ones that did, when people pass, they erase their names and then they don't get the credit. So this is rare, what's happening. And it really is a testament to the hours, the trust, the respect that's happened over the years. So thank you for that great question. That was a good one.
Yes.
You two ladies had questions also. Let's get those out of the way since all three raised at the same time. So we'll go here. Dodger Blue.
oh, wow. Well, I don't know what avenue they want to take or what direction they want to do. You guys right there. But whatever you guys do, like, do it the best you can. I mean, that's all I can say. It might not be the best. Like, I just remember when I was popping or breaking or, or doing whatever, like my graffiti piece or my tag, always I approach it like I got to do it the best I can, to my ability, you know what I mean? And try and be creative about it, and don't try and do what's already out there, like try and do it with your own flavor and twist on everything. And then I think that'll separate what you do from everybody else, whatever you do, whether it's sports or race car driver or whatever, like, have your own flavor, whether it's the arts or, rapping or whatever you do, like, I don't know, just have your own flavor. And
I'll tell you like this, and I might not be as restrictive as what he's saying, right? When you start, and you start telling your friends and your family, and you start showing what you're doing, everybody's gonna criticize it. Why are you doing that? That looks like this. I don't understand. Like, even when I started, the day I opened the store, my mom was like, you should go get a job. This isn't gonna go work. If you're lucky, right, to do something that you love, at some point it's gonna give you that opportunity to create it your own way. So when you're looking at something that you think you have an interest in, that you wanna invest time into, look at the ones that you think are doing it right, whether that's businesses, artists, creators, athletes. Look at the ones that you think are doing right and ask yourself how long they've been doing it.
yeah, and it's okay to copy in the beginning.
You have
Yeah,
to.
you gotta
And
let-
then, because then you're going to be able to see the right and the wrong way to do it. And if you're lucky to do it for long enough, you are able to create your own. And so if you guys are showing interest in something, it looks like we're ranging from like 5 to like 15 back there, right? Like, if you're figuring it out at 5 to 15, you guys are gonna be monsters in your 30s. And you're really gonna be making some great money when you get to like our age. I'm not at his age yet, so I'm not really making no money. You know what I mean? But I know it's coming.
Yeah, I mean, and any advice? I mean, just like if I could think of
Live, laugh,
advice. Yeah, like if I could think of advice that I would give my younger self, it's just it's be patient and be willing to mess up and be willing to figure it out as you go, because I remember being a kid and seeing adults
Ignore everybody's comments and criticism, bro.
Yeah.
Because that's the first thing that makes you stop.
Yeah. You gotta figure it out your way, and you gotta make it work for you, and you gotta respect the originals. You gotta understand the history, and you gotta respect like authority in a sense, because there are gonna be people. There are gonna be people that do know better than you, or know something that you don't, and I would just think that it would be really helpful to just take what people say, not for them grilling you and not for them like beating up on you, but just as a look, I'm here to help. I'm here to figure it out. If you're giving me advice, if you're telling me I'm doing something wrong, let me know in detail what it is so I could figure it out, and so that I could be better because of the mistake that I'm making. Because we all make mistakes. We're all gonna make mistakes. And it's just those types of things that are just ultimately going to happen. So, yeah, I would just say that advice is just use technology to your advantage, but...
Now, you got a cheat code. You have the internet, and you can literally Google it. Like,
yeah.
you didn't have that at
Yeah.
all. You had abacuses, right? No calculators?
Yes.
Taking it back.
Yeah, understand the instant...
Ow! I thought that was it was Roman numerals and sundials.
Yeah, understand the benefits of having that instant information and knowing that sometimes it's not always going to be that instant, and when it does come and when it comes the way that it comes, it's going to be just valuable either way. But you guys have the world at your feet, or at your doorstep, or however a cliche phrase can go. Like you guys do have like everything you need already. So yeah, it's just.
Last question, right? Because it was 3. Yeah. What's our last question? Good? No? Good?
How do you find a balance with everything that you do, all your painting, all the drops you're doing, the designing? How do you find a balance at home and with all your work?
Well, I'm a Libra, so right. I guess that just comes naturally. The balance thing.
You
I
function
guess.
in chaos.
Yeah.
You have to.
But honestly, I keep so busy that I don't have time to stop to realize how chaotic maybe my life is. I mean, honestly, but yeah, but I my wife reminds me to slow down sometimes. I mean, if it was up to her, she thinks that we should just kind of kick back and spend more time with with Elle and do that stuff. But I feel like, damn, I'm not done yet. I got a lot more to do. You know what I mean? I got empires to conquer still. I got, and then I just think about Wyland and how many walls he did. I was like, dude, I haven't even dented that. Yeah, I don't know. I try and do it all. I try and I can't say I got the answers, and I hope I'm not half-assing any of these projects, but I'm fortunate to surround myself with solid people that I can count on, and helps me execute the vision and kind of keeps me, towards the goal, And like I said, my wife is, like, I hate to put it back on her, but yeah.
She's got it worse.
Yeah.
She's got it way worse.
She got it way worse. She goes, at least you like what you do. And she reminds me about that too. Like sometimes I feel like she's kind of bitter. You know what I mean? She got like this jealous thing going because she's like, I love my life. I enjoy it. You know what I mean? Like, and it's not money or things like that, but the freedom to do the stuff I want to do. And she's like, a lot of times she doesn't enjoy what she does, but she holds it together. So I give her big ups.
When you get to this level of creating, like when you're in this space where every thought like becomes layered and just requires more and more effort, right? It's gonna happen. We'll be hanging out here for a little bit. If you guys want to, take pictures, ask questions, or any of that stuff, we're here. Thank you for being so kind to us, and appreciate your time.
Yes. Thank you. Thank you, guys.